institute started, we didn't have any trained social workers in India.
Many books used to be either American or British. There wasn't Indian experience in our reading.
First few field action projects of the institute were started simply because fieldwork was absolutely an essential part of social work education.
We had to look for and search for agencies, or wherever there was any gap, start the work ourselves.
It was all absolutely new at that point in time. Nobody had thought that you could put social workers in all these kinds of places.
Students have been very, very crucial actually to the birth and the growth of field action projects. The core remains the same: intervention in new areas.
It has provided opportunities for understanding issues at the grassroots level and then feed it back to teaching. This is probably the most unique contribution of TISS to education and social work education in particular.
The first field action project started by TISS in 1937. The Child Guidance Clinic, now known as Muskan, set the foundation for over 7 decades of diligent intervention in the field.
The Child Guidance Clinic is a clinic which offers clinical services. From there, we decided to call ourselves Muskan. Every child's life we touch, every child we touch, the child should be happy and smiling. And we must have a lot of fun and games while doing this. So that's how the change in from a clinical context to more a well-being context. So whether it's emotional and behavior problems or anything else resulting out of any traumatic experience like child sexual abuse, molestation, to just promoting well-being and to help children develop positive sense of self-esteem, confidence, relationships. In the last 2 or 3 years, we have actually reached out to approximately 4,000 children in the R ward. And whatever work we do it in a participatory manner where children are engaged in games, activities, experiential learning, and we take up such complex issues like gender and violence and discrimination to enhancing children's social and emotional competence. The long-term aim is that at least within the school system, we are able to mainstream mental health.
Over the last 7 decades, field action projects have addressed a wide range of issues, such as violence against women, formal and non-formal education, physical and mental health, vulnerable groups in criminal justice, communalism, livelihood, human rights, and Dalit and tribal issues. The broad goal of all these interventions is the creation of a more equal and just society. Several field action projects grow out of a response to arising needs and changing social realities. One of the purposes for evolving field action projects was to allow for and demonstrate intervention in areas where none had taken place so far.
In 1975 was International Women's Year, and there is a demand made for family court, but there were no courts existing. We realized that there is need of this kind of machinery which advises the people in marital discord with proper advice, counseling, if necessary guidance, and all sorts of therapeutic work that we have read or worked with. And this is how we started in 1977, and we were supposed to give report to the High Court, because there is an administrative machinery of the court. So they were trying to see what are the results, and results were very good. You see that about 35% settlement of cases before going to hearing, you see.
The women's movement's demand was to set up some kind of a desk or a unit for women activists or social workers or people who would be able to respond to violence against women in the police offices, because they felt police was not taking care of the issues of women, not helping them, not aiding them, not believing in them, and so on and so forth. When women came to the special cell and asked for violence to stop and justice to be done, just by saying stop and law did not enough. How does one hold up emotions? How does one hold up relationships? How do you hold up both physical and emotional resources together to be able to stand through this violent struggle that you're going through? For interventions to get sharper, cleaner, neater, to be able to influence policy, to be able to critique law. So research, training, working with the individual were all simultaneously and equally important for the issue of violence against women. And if you put women as the center, and then you see all this aids and abets in being able to get back her agency, which was being lost in this whole area of violence. It's now a fully funded project of the government of Maharashtra. We've been able to replicate it to about 3 to 4 other states where government has taken over. We're now demonstrating in other 4 states, hoping for it to take on.
Field action projects have been in this respect, almost like laboratories, for testing new approaches of social service delivery and strategies of intervention. Prayas, a field action project initiated in 1990, was the first to recognize the need for placing social workers within the adult custodial and correctional institutions, such as prisons, police stations, courts, and shelter homes for women.
Sanobar, based on her PhD thesis, when she finished her thesis, and that is the time when she realized that we need to put social workers in the adult criminal justice system. Earlier to that, in the criminology department, most of the fieldwork placements were in either children's institutions or women's institutions and beggars' homes. Adult CJS was never part of the canvas. She also started placing students in police station, in Deonar police station, in courts. It was all absolutely new at that point in time. It was really, nobody had thought that you could put social workers in all these kinds of places. And there was something really exciting happening around those time. What gradually began to emerge through the work of Prayas is that if you look at the universal role that social workers can play in the system is with regard to rehabilitation. Because that's a specific role for which we are trained. Unfortunately, there aren't enough mechanisms or structures in place to be able to absorb this trained person in that system to play a very specific role. With regard to, number one, protection of legal rights or promoting legal rights, and the second part is the issue of rehabilitation. That's what the endeavor of TIS is how does one be able to make a dent at the policy level and demonstrate through demonstration that this is a service and a structure which is lacking in our country. And if you look at the work that Prayas has done, it's essentially remained within the framework of criminology and criminal justice social work. And there are not too many academic institutions within social work which are focusing on this area today. In fact, TIS is probably the only center of criminology and justice within social work in the country.
Like in any institution of learning, students form the backbone of TISS's field action projects. Not only in terms of an enthusiastic workforce, but students have also been known to be instrumental in starting various field action projects for want of any intervention in certain areas of their interest.
Somehow Beggars Home had never been a fieldwork organization, so there was a reluctance from the department in terms of placing me there. So there were some issues with that, but finally a lot of things happened, but finally they are able to place me there. So I started as a fieldwork student there, and the kind of things that one would see there were completely unacceptable. There were like more than 1,000 people lost there. Most of them were people with mental illness. There was a good number of people who were aged and abandoned by the families. A lot of people who were physically handicapped people were there. To me it looked like as if they have been picked up from the streets just because we wanted our streets to be clean, and you don't want these people to be seen around. So all of a sudden one student is coming in who is asking very uncomfortable question. Within like 6 months we had created this space where superintendent would actually send the probation officer to take me from institute if they are going to have any meeting in the Beggars Home. So they would not decide on anything without me being there. That time department here and TIS also supported a lot, like teachers, they would allow me to go leave my class and go there. There was only one long-term goal, which was this law has to go. You cannot arrest people who are on the street or who are being poor. So you can arrest people for what they do, but not for who they are. We are now sharing with different states, and we are saying that this is the model that can be taken up as for the rehabilitation of people who are into begging. We know for sure that nowhere else an intervention like this has been attempted. What we are doing is it ranges from police sensitization, it covers legal aid, it covers family tracing, taking people back to the family, employment, capacity building, livelihood training, counseling is there. It kind of makes it a complete program where we actually we're not dependent on an external agency to for our results.
When I joined the department, I felt that we need to look at health from a more comprehensive, a developmental perspective, and we also need to then engage in practice at the community level, because that was really the need of our population. Also, since we tended to practice very much in the urban areas, we did not have a rural perspective at all. Finally, we came to Aghai. The core areas have been not just working on health as disease. We found that education for children became a priority area because there were no balwadis there. We did that in 3 villages, and fortunately for us, 1 or 2 of the balwadis were taken over by the government, and the local people whom we had employed as teachers were now government employees. The objective of this field action project is to train our students in understanding health and development perspectives in practice, and develop all the skills of practice in them, and also the appropriate attitudes of working with people who live in poverty, and realize the importance of working with people in poverty living in our rural context.
Faculty members have often expressed that lived experiences gained through their work with field action projects allow them to bring insights into the classroom that helps to bridge the elusive gap between theory and practice.
Tribal children, their existence was not recognized by the school system, government, or any society at all. So I wanted to focus on education, development, right to identity. So we were started working on that, and that's how the Navachetana name was given by the students themselves. We are reaching out to 75 wadis, they are called. We were doing workshops for the village education committee. The MA social work students organize health checkup, Anand Mela. They also engage with the newly admitted children who have to come leaving their parents to stay in a hostel. They don't know how to take care of their clothes and themselves and all that, so they work with them. We are very closely working with the activists. See, SCZ, we got it cancelled. So our social worker and our children, 8th and 9th standard children, we discuss with them what are the land issues, forest issues, water issues, industrialization issues, all these things with them, to show what are their entitlements and what is their right, how to go about it in a democratic way, and in all these things how education is important. You must stay in school and not drop out. So we try to link these two.
Childline, started by TISS as a field action project, is now an independent nationwide initiative. It is today instituted with permanent government funding in 51 cities as a scheme of the Government of India. Currently, TISS is involved in 26 field action projects serving different short and long-term goals. While some field action projects have been adopted by the government or become national schemes, there are others which terminate or get absorbed by communities or have become independent NGOs like Meljol and Hamara Foundation. CARROT, or Cell for Action, Research and Training on HIV and AIDS, a field action project initiated in 1993, served as a pilot project for intervention in the field of HIV and AIDS.
Today, Saksham is essentially building capacities of institutions of higher learning to respond to the training needs in relation to the epidemic, specifically in counseling training across the country. We are reaching out to not only organizations who are doing HIV work, which is very specific work, but also work with development sector organizations who then are able to see the link between the epidemic and their own work, and see how they can respond in their own work to the specific needs and challenges of the communities that they are working with in relation to HIV and AIDS. We noticed that our master trainers were still struggling a lot with these issues, which are very fundamental to the epidemic. So we have this year, for example, done very in-depth trainings on gender and sexuality for our trainers. So they get not only the skills, the content for training, but they are able to then also get the perspectives, the discourses that come with working with these groups. We look at these issues as they emerge, the data as they emerge, and strategize around that. We are 12,000 counsellors, around 550 master trainers, 1,200 counselling supervisors all over the country, 38 universities of higher learning, of which say 70% are universities. The other institutions are medical institutions where departments of psychiatry are involved in.
What stands today as TISS's Campus for Rural Development had its genesis in a field action project started in Tuljapur in TISS's Golden Jubilee year.
came here and we had the Golden Jubilee 85 and we were discussing what should we do for the Golden Jubilee. I said at least one thing we should do which is durable and long term, you know. And I said we have a very high urban presence because we are in a city. We don't have a rural presence except for the few research projects we do. We come back, we're not impacting on rural life. And I think the faculty picked it up at the meeting, the heads meeting that we had and discussed all this. Small committee I formed of people from rural studies, community development and all that, and worked on a project to develop this, wrote a letter to the state government to give us some land. But I had said in my letter that the land should be in a low rainfall and a high poverty area. The principal secretary of the state government called me. He said, why do you want everything that nobody wants? Everyone wants land between Bombay and Pune and you want this land. I said, because how do we make any impact? We want a land where we can show what social work can contribute to. We should know the community. We should build up our expertise of work in a rural community, especially in that context of a rural rainfall area. And then we should go for, you know, starting a campus after some time.
TISS currently employs over 70 field staff in various field action projects, and several students are involved in this work every year. Together, they seek to draw from the experiences of the last 75 years and pave the way for many more to come.
See, TISS is different, okay? I mean, it is unique in many ways. We have been relevant, okay, at any point of time in terms of higher education also and in response. I feel we must keep these continue to be relevant, but be rooted